Hi everyone! Today I'm continuing my series on the different relationships between different MBTI types and what I believe are some of the positive aspects as well as some of the challenges or obstacles that these types of couples could have. So all about that in the next few minutes. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and let's dive in. Alright, so today we're going to be talking about ENFP and INTJ. This is a really famous couple, let's say, in the MBTI community, and it's often referred to as one of the golden couples. Because at a very basic level, let's say, the complementarity between our hero functions is something that is considered to be a very important factor in compatibility. So because ENFP has extroverted intuition as their dominant function, and INTJ has introverted intuition, this means that theoretically they are a very good couple, they work really well with each other. Now, in my opinion, there's a bit more to discuss here. And while I do generally believe that these two types have a great potential for having a harmonious relationship, I also believe there are some obstacles or challenges that are often not talked enough about. So I'm going to share my perspective on that. Firstly, it is true that the fact that they are both dominant intuitives and also the fact that they both have FI and TE in their main four functions, this helps them to have quite a lot of understanding of each other. They can understand each other's point of view more easily. They can communicate in a more abstract way with each other and feel comfortable in each other's presence because both types are quite abstract in their thinking and their communication as well. So when they are together as a romantic couple, but also in other contexts, it might feel like, oh, finally I can relax and I can, communicate how I truly communicate without having to overly explain myself because the other person will get it. And also because of this TEFI dynamic, this means that the way that they make decisions can, to a high extent, resemble the other person's way of making decisions, and this can also help them in communicating and understanding each other. Although the ENFP has a stronger FI as a parent function and INTJ has a stronger TE as a parent function, they still don't experience these functions as extremes. So we're not seeing a hero function, inferior function dynamic, rather a parent-child function dynamic, where both of these types have these same two functions, just in reversed order. So the fact that they both have quite good access to both of these functions means that in their decision-making process, TE and FI will both appear, hence this ability to understand and connect. Now, on the other hand, there are also aspects in this relationship that, as I said, I believe people don't talk enough about. First of all, the difference in temperament. ENFP is an NF type, so an idealist, whereas INTJ is an NT type, so a rational or an intellectual. And again, while the shared abstract thinking is something that will really help these two types connect, there's also a gap. And this gap comes from the idealism that is very much people-focused in the ENFP and potential-focused, to a more skeptical, cold approach that an INTJ could bring. And sometimes this can cause a really strong clash between the two of them. And it's interesting because the fact that they are both dominant intuitives and the fact that they do have this ease in communicating with each other sometimes will get them into this really tense conversations where the idealism of the ENFP, who might want to quote unquote save the world, it's an exaggeration the way that I'm expressing it, but this desire to see the best in people, to inspire, to create meaningful change in the world can sometimes be met with resistance from the INTJ, who might feel like, this is too idealistic. I don't like that. I want to have a more realistic, practical, utilitarian approach to things, which can really annoy an ENFP, and it might make them feel like the INTJ is not truly respecting and appreciating their values and what they truly care about, So this is something they need to be mindful of because they can get in really heated conversations or debates out of excitement for their own ideas and their own perceptions coming from their hero functions. And they might not realize that these kinds of clashes or debates can sometimes also have an emotional impact on them and their relationship. So something to be mindful of, not something destructive necessarily, but something to pay attention to and have the openness to understand the other person's perspective and where they are coming from. Because I do believe that one of the greatest, support that MBTI or any typological system can provide us with is this self-awareness and other awareness. The fact that we understand that the other person might have a different opinion, not because they don't respect us, not because they don't love us, but simply because their brain works differently. They process things differently, Okay, something else that I would add here is a certain tendency to avoid S-related things, so sensing-related things. I think I might have mentioned this in another video. When we have too much similarity with the other person, even though this can truly help, it can also hinder when we avoid parts that are also important in life. So when two intuitives come together, especially hero intuitive types, they may get really excited about this shared world of ideas and possibilities and abstract theories and philosophies, and sometimes they might neglect some more practical, down-to-earth aspects. When you have a dynamic between an intuitive and a sensing type, this can get a bit more balanced. However, when both types have such strong intuition and a weaker sensing function, they might neglect to deal with paperwork and chores around the household. And then when they do realize that those things need to get done, they might get into a conflict with each other because neither of them wants to do it. Neither of them feels comfortable to do it. They're both insecure, perhaps, about it. So again, it's mindful to understand that this can be a trigger for both of you. This can be something that both of you really do not feel comfortable doing, and that maybe your annoyance also comes from an insecurity around these topics. And again, doing all these practical things is not just a chore that an S-type can do. However, they might be a bit more naturally connected to that. So you as intuitives, is important to also develop certain skills in this area to build your competence, and then later to feel more confident in yourself and obviously deal with whatever life throws at you. And then coming back to this thinking-feeling dynamic, I feel like, yes, it's true what I said earlier, this shared cognitive function aspect can really help them in understanding each other. But sometimes when the INTJ gets a bit too strongly in a TE mode and an ENFP gets too strongly in an FI mode, this can also cause certain disruptions or tensions if the two are not careful. So the INTJ might be a bit harsher in the way they give feedback, criticism, and appear a bit cold and lacking empathy, which can feel hurtful to an ENFP. And the ENFP might feel like, you really hurt my feelings, you are not considerate with me, and either pull back, withdraw, or start a conflict. And the importance that the ENFP places on feeling your feelings and acknowledging your feelings is something that can sometimes really annoy an INTJ, who might be like, okay, I've had enough of this is too dramatic. And again, this can cause conflict on a more emotional level. But this is something that many different types can experience, particularly in a feeler-thinker relationship. And it's, again, really important to be mindful of it, because there's a great potential for both parties to develop certain skills. For instance, the INTJ can learn to tone down their communication sometimes and be a bit more careful with how they use words and the emotional impact that these words can have on other people. At the same time, the ENFP can learn to separate a little bit how they feel about something and what other people feel about something, and not expect others to maybe value the same things or value things in the same way that they do. So this ability to become a little bit more balanced in the feeling-thinking dimension can also be really helpful for the relationship, but also for each person in particular. Okay, so these are my thoughts on some of the most important aspects to take into account when looking at the dynamic between an ENFP and an INTJ, particularly in a romantic relationship. Also wanted to remind you guys that I am a professional coach with a background in psychology and psychodrama. So I offer coaching sessions aimed at supporting individuals in enhancing their level of self-awareness and aligning their lives with their vision and their values and their personality. So if that sounds interesting to you, check out the link in the description below. It will take you to my website and you can find out more. And again, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for being with me, and see you next time with another video on typology.